Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Charlie Chaplin's Monsieur Verdoux in 1947. So yes, once again back with a Chaplin, and once again in the set behind me we have the second half of the set, with his later films of course, and ending, in terms of feature films with A King in New York. So yeah, it's very very close approaching now, and I'll have to seek out, which I haven't seen yet, the final Chaplin, A Countess from Hong Kong. That film I'm gonna have to get another way because it's not on the set. But yeah, basically that's not too popular. So we've only got a few more chapters left after this one to review for his feature films. And yeah, of course we'll be doing his shorts as well, and we'll be doing the ranking. Soon after doing these feature reviews of his feature films. And yes. This film is very, very different for Chaplin, and this won't be a spoilers review or anything. But yes, Monsieur Verdoux, I'd seen this once before, and yeah, it's very very different. 7-year gap between this and The Great Dictator release, and that was it's a controversial film, and this one once again was very very controversial, and actually unfortunately it was kind of the last straw, for many people, and yes, basically led to his kind of deportation. Although it wasn't an actual force. He wasn't actually forced out in that sense. He kind of he didn't want to come, but he refused to kind of do interviews and stuff, and basically get a grilling and from the government and stuff. And he didn't come back, of course, as we know, to the US. From 52 to 72. But this film kind of stirred this up even more so, and because very very controversial, this film politically. But we're not going to dwell on that. I think it's a disgrace what happened to Chaplin. But this is the film, and of course this rightfully is actually regarded. It took a while, but it is regarded now as a great great film. And yes. This film is a lot more darker. This is the one where he does not play the tramp character at all. Where the Great Dictator, of course, the Jewish barber, the character, was kind of like the tramp in some ways. This doesn't have any resemblance really at all of the tramp character. This is Henry Verdoux he plays, and he's certainly not a character who you really feel sympathy for in the way that you do with the tramp, and he's not an innocent character really. Although we'll get to some things, where I do think actually he's very likeable, the character. But he is kind of like a villain, you could say, Henry Verdoux. And yes, the basic plot involves Henry Verdoux. He's basically recently been laid off his job, and yes, to support his family, his wife and kid, he basically goes around luring, widows, and kind of marrying them, and then of course killing them off for their money. So yeah, very very dark stuff here, and it's a comedy of course as well. It's very very satirical, but it's very very dark. It's one that is very very different for Chaplin. But yeah, I thought, and I was very very nervous about this going into seeing it for the first time, because as I say, it is controversial. While it is more loved now, of course, it's still very very controversial. Some say it's one of his best, and some don't like it too much at all. But I think, I was kind of thinking, I don't know how I'm going to respond to this one. Despite a lot of people saying it's great, because it's very different. It's not got the tramp character, and for him, Chaplin to play kind of a villain in many ways, it's very risky. But I watched it 2017 for the first time. And yes, I did love this film. I think it's just a stunning piece of work, and it's not. I will say it now. It's not quite perfect, and it's not on the level of his most of his other feature films. Just excluding A Woman of Paris, but the ones he starred in, of course, it's not quite on the level of them. It is my least favorite, personally, of these ones. Including The Circus. I do prefer The Circus, but yeah. It is overall definitely, for me actually, a great great film, and just very very different, but eventually so involving. A brilliant script. I mean, this is a great great script. The acting across the board really is great, and it's just certainly the second half is just pretty much perfection. It really is a combination of comedy, that he brings the slapstick to as a thriller as well. It's a very very tight, and just such an engaging thriller. It's where he's kind of getting chased at times and pursued when people start finding things out about this killer, of course, and he combines this with comedy, and it just makes for a great experience. And in the end, actually, in the last sort of 10-15 minutes, very moving. And really, the only flaws, we'll get them out of the way now, that I have of the film, is literally mainly the first half an hour. It's just ever so slightly, just in a couple of places here and there, very small cases. It is a bit flat. I just ever so slightly felt that, it was a bit flat, and just it took about half an hour really for me to be fully 100%, behind this entire film kind of thing, and really 100% connect to it. But it really doesn't knock off a big mark, because it's just, it was still very good / great. Mostly, I was pretty much loving the film. Just not, I was always thinking this is pretty much a great film in that first half an hour, but just not quite, full marks or anything at that point. And then, it may be one of the cases of slapstick there. I thought, it's not quite Chaplin level, laugh out loud, but really the rest of the film, I would say, is pretty much flawless, and it just keeps going and going, actually, and delivers so much in the rest of the film that actually, I do think it is a masterpiece. Just a slightly flawed one, because it does, as I say, that first half an hour, it's just something I can't quite overlook, in terms of just didn't quite reach the potential. It should have just slightly done more, to fully engage me in that sense, and it just a couple of places here and there, just ever so slightly flat, but really, even then, it's still, in that first half an hour, I love the kind of how relaxed it is, kind of gets you in a state of just kind of, I don't know, I just found it really enjoyable, in the way that you're just kind of, you're just with Chaplin's character a lot of the time here, and the kind of peaceful nature, even though he is a killer, of his character, and the way he's kind of just going around the houses and stuff. I really loved this, and the way it drew me in. While not perfect, not 100% behind it, as I say, it did really give me a certain feel, actually, that I was certainly really enjoying this, and yes, you have some really great writing here, even in the first half an hour. It's just great stuff, and yes, all this kind of stuff is to support his wife and son, financially, and you see them as well quite early on. I loved that. I loved the kind of the humanity of it that it brought to the character, of this character of Henry Verdoux, and this is all kind of, the motives are so clearly set out. It's just a kind of, as I say, slightly flat in places here and there. Maybe not quite with his character just, but some of the other characters in the film, the supporting characters. But that's it. The rest of the film, as I say, is masterful. It is just so good, and it's certainly on my favourite films list. It's just not as high as most of the other ones, of course. But yes, it all kind of goes according to plan, you could say, for the character of Henry, until his 14th victim, Annabella, and she's played by Raye, and yes, this is really when it starts to, just become so great, and she's really great character. I love the performance here. It's just hilarious, actually, and very charming. The relationship, of course, and I really felt sorry for this character, and I did. At times I was really just annoyed, of course, at the character of Henry, which you're meant to be, but at the same time, it is very complex, and you kind of see, he does want to kind of support his wife and that, but of course he goes too far. The cases of him, murdering all these people is just, it's really a complex film, and of course it does represent a lot of stuff as well. It's got some messages to the film, especially towards the end, which I'm not going to get into. One, because of spoilers, and two, because I don't really think I need to. But yes, as I say, this was a controversial film. A lot of the subtext, and stuff to the film, but yes, I do think in the end it is actually so powerful. Always gets me, once again, just this kind of speech towards the end. It doesn't speech, of course, in The Great Dictator, but this one is very different, and it ends in a very dark way, which is in contrast, to The Great Dictator, of course. That's full of hope, that one. But yes, this one really, I was kind of just shook, at the ending. So it did definitely move me, this film, emotionally. Not as much as these other ones, and it's not, the kind of level of joy or purity, really, cinematically, or kind of just enjoyability, but it does not need to be compared, and it's very, very different, And Limelight is again, is a full-on drama, really. There's a couple, of course, there's funny moments in that film, but it's mainly just a truly powerful drama. That one, we'll get to that. But again, it's not as dark as this in many ways, but then it is. He never really returned, it seems, to the the kind of the work he'd done with The Great Dictator, and before that. But this one, really, it did become very moving, and actually, I think the humanity to the film. There's a woman he meets actually. In the centre of the film when she crops up again later. That was a great, great scene, such a human scene, wonderful. Where of course he does want to test out poison on that character, and he's kind of he's deciding, he has some conversations with her, and I just think that whole sequence is just wonderful, actually. Really, really moving, dark, but truly moving, actually, and I loved that kind of humanity it brought, and actually, the way that he kind of, it brought complexity to his character as well. The character development is great in this film. It truly, by the end of it, is such a memorable character. That he plays, Henry Verdoux. Actually, and it's this one that's just kind of quite legendary, a legendary character in cinema, but one that is not fully likable, of course, and in many ways the villain of the film, very, very different, and there's kind of there's debate about how this who really came up with the ideas and stuff. The story is credited with Orson Welles, for kind of, or at least inspiration for the story, based off of his ideas. We'll never really know, I don't think, exactly what, to be honest, because they're both conflicting ideas, conflicting reports, and with Orson Welles and stuff as well, you don't know. But I'm sure it's kind of a joint kind of thing at times. But the main thing is Chaplin directed, and he did write the film and stuff, and it does feel, and once again, like a just a film where he really just put everything into, and it's got so much greatness to the film. It's got kind of a wonderful visuals to the film, not on the level really of the rest of his works, but it is stunning visuals. The cinematography is great. The editing is mostly perfect, in my eyes. There's a couple of bits, it does kind of get, it's not, it kind of gets a bit repetitive with the way that the train, keeps in the wheels of the train and stuff, but other than that, the editing is just so good. I love this whole narrative and the progression to it. I think there's such a kind of, scope to the film. I feel that the length was the perfect one. He really took his time to build up the characters and the motivations, and to show how it was all kind of becoming a routine. And then when it gets to a point where it's it's kind of an issue for him, that's when it really gets felt. So I think actually it's essential to take its time as well. I just think emotionally and stuff, it's just, as I say, ever so slightly flat, and only Doc's a tiny percentage off there, but yes, this is just a great film. It's a masterpiece for me. I think direction is so great. The acting is wonderful. Chaplin really does give a great performance. Martha Raye is great, and quite a lot of the supporting cast really, really great as well. And it's just such a joy to kind of watch Chaplin in action here. It's just something very, very particular about the performance. It's just so kind of cool, kind of thing, and he's just got such charisma. It's really something to watch Chaplin act, and to hear him speak. Of course, it's truly something to behold and marvel. At, and just the way he kind of has so much charisma in the film. He knows how to get kind of the chemistry as well out of the other actresses in the film, and just the way his expressions. There's never a fault in his performance in this film. He really is stunning in the film, and it's just all the costumes as well. Everything about this character of Henry is so compelling, and entertaining, and just mysterious as well. It's also great, and of course Chaplin's performance is just, as I say, off the charts, and it's so even though he's the villain, it's such a charming one, and one that really just is such a joy to watch. As I say, so good, so entertaining. From start to finish. I love how this becomes it's just such a tense and engaging thriller, and a thought-provoking thriller. It's one of them films, where a criminal, is just given such humanity, and it's very disturbing actually. This film, in the end, and I think, but it manages to be just hilarious from the times. Of course, this scene on the boat, the bit, kind of the last kind of sequences, with the greenhouse, for example, it's stuff of legends. It really is perfect, absolutely hilarious. This is just, it's the timing of it, the progression, of course, the tension within the comedy, how it's kind of a thriller, where he's hiding from people and stuff, and but as well, such hilarious sequences at the end. It's kind of this combination of tension and comedy, and yes, just a real patience to the film, and it really becomes clear in the end, how great this is, how masterful it is, and I think just the acting from everyone, and the level of humanity to the film, it is truly stunning, and yes, just all round a great film. I think it really is. It's not quite perfect, but really the after half an hour mark it pretty much is, and it's just, I just love this film. I think the script is so great. It's such a remarkable script. Actually, the emotion behind a lot of the ideas here, and just the execution, in the second half is something else. It really is, especially, and I love how it's a very daring film. It's not like his other works, of course, which, yeah, I do prefer. No denying that. I don't think this is his best work or anything. It's some people say that. Some people say it's underrated. I agree, it's underrated. Certainly, in terms of its first release and that, because it done quite poorly at the box office. There was boycotting, of course, which, again, we're not going to get into. This is, it's a positive review of another Chaplin film, which is just wonderful in my eyes. And as I say, it's such a shame, what happened after this, really. And Limelight being his last film that people kind of regarded at all. His other ones weren't they still aren't really too highly regarded. They're not known to be that great at all, actually, for most people. But I will check them out, and I can't say I look forward to them massively, but I do think they'll be interesting, and maybe I can take some stuff from them. But yes, this film is one of his last ones, that people consider great, and I certainly do. I think it's wonderful. It's very uplifting at times. It's actually very life-affirming, actually through the turnaround of the character at times, and the way that he does change his mind at times about killing certain people. I think it's very evident within the that kind of scene with the woman, in the centre of the film, and when he sees her again, it's a wonderful moment. This is such a human film, and it may not be it may not be clear at first, but definitely, be patient with this one, because it does. I think it really becomes clear after that first act, and certainly in the centre of the film, what this is going for, and it's a very different film, very daring, and it's just mostly stunning throughout. It really is, in its comedy, in its humanity. The acting is just absolutely stunning, really stunning from Chaplin especially, and just another masterpiece from Chaplin. So overall, this film, as I say, is absolutely stunning, and I think almost perfect, really. Just that first act, but really, it's still mostly great. That first act, it's just not quite perfect for me. It's just slightly flawed there. As I say, just one or two instances where it's ever so slightly flat, mainly in the scenes where Chaplin is not actually in the film, and I do think, yeah, just took half an hour roughly for me to be absolutely, fully, and completely behind the film in every way. From then on, it's absolutely stunning. Kind of absolutely masterful there, and just as I say, the acting, it's just great. Marilyn Nash, who does play that woman in the centre of the film, gives a really lovely performance. Just great, of course, and yeah, it's just Raye combining, I felt really sorry for her, and a very innocent and pure character, and one that you don't really want anything to happen to at all. But of course, just a hilarious performance as well. She adds a lot of charm to the film, and I think it's just really perfect, the dynamics between a lot of the characters, and the actual cast of the film, and I love how the film sets up as well. While flawed slightly, I think it's just it's so charming. Throughout this is charming. At times oddly charming, because it's a very very cynical film, you could say. It's very very different, of course, to what Chaplin had done before this. Certainly, modern times before that. Silent works. It's literally polar opposites, you could say, because they're some of the most purely just uplifting films. Although they are, of course, not the basic or anything like that. But they are, they're some of the best films ever made. Most of these ones, but they're not, kind of dark like this, cynical at times. This one, it's a very very it's a comedy of manners at times, and it's jokingly called a comedy of murders. But yes, this is just quite a genius film, actually, and it's just an absolute masterpiece for the rest of the film after that half an hour mark. And overall, because of that, I give it a 99%, and I say, slightly flawed masterpiece, but definitely one that's just stunning from Chaplin once again. I think all these films are just stunning, and Limelight, of course, yeah, no doubt that's a stunning film. We'll get to that. Do I regard it higher than this? Well, of course I do, as I've already said in review, I guess. But how do I rank that among the rest of his films? And find out for that review how high I give that, the mark on that, and for example, where it is in my tiers. But yes, this film is very very different. The most different Chaplin film really in his career. Feature films, but a stunning film. I love just how kind of investing this is. The character that Chaplin plays is so different, and just I think while I do of course prefer overall the silent work to his later works overall. The Great Dictator is right up there with the best films ever made, and my second favourite Chaplin. But overall, of course, I do prefer the silence really. But there is a novelty as well of just seeing roles that Chaplin actually spoke in. It's always a kind of shock to go to The Great Dictator and actually hear him speak in a film. There's always something I probably never mentioned that in my review, but just because I've seen him in so many silent works, and he's kind of this iconic, legendary character that he plays and everything, and then you hear him speak, and it's kind of it's such a weird thing, to just hear him speak in a film, and yes, in a weird way. While I do prefer the silent works, it's just something that that's just kind of something to cherish. Perhaps just hearing this guy, as a life-changing filmmaker and actor speak in a film, and his character that he plays is just so great. Humanity to this murderer, and I think the way this is structured is stunning. The way it gets in the mind and the psyche of this villain, perhaps, but it adds so much complexities, and the comedy, after the first couple of bits, it's just absolutely genius once again. The stuff he puts together here is something to behold. Once again, at the top of his game, and just such a charm to the film. Quite a whimsical feel at times. While it is very very dark and cynical, but again, in the end, the message is it's really so moving actually, and it did move me actually in the last 10 minutes. The ending is very very dark indeed. And it's just such a shame as well. What happened after this. With Chaplin, what a shame. This wonderful individual, how he was treated. But we must focus on the stuff he brought, to cinema, which was mostly just all wonderful. It's staggering. His career, his filmography, just how did he do it? Kind of thing. Just this guy, the editing, direction, of course, the music as well. Once again, scored by Chaplin, very different, but just stunning in the way it's used. And this is a really really tranquil film at times. It's got its the patience to the film is just key here, and the way it has loads of moments to contemplate things, and it really says something about life, the value of life, the meaning of it. And while it's very dark and cynical at times, I do think it's very very uplifting in moments, and just purely human, while being hilarious, dark comedy, and just mostly perfect. As I say, just a flawed masterpiece because of mainly that first half an hour. But no doubt this is something that I love to bits. Definitely on my favourite films list. Not quite as high as the other feature films that I've reviewed, apart from A Woman of Paris. I didn't think that was great, really. That was good, but nothing more. But yes, Monsieur Verdoux, definitely a film I love. Absolutely love this film, and just stunning. Once again, in its own unique way, its odd little way. It's a wonderful film by Chaplin. The performances, everything, the cinematography, the direction, it's all mostly stunning. And I love this film, and it's great to rewatch once again. It's great that he made a film like this as well. Something very, very different, and seeing him in a different role is very interesting. And just a great, great film, a flawed masterpiece for me, and certainly one I'd recommend. It doesn't quite get the attention, that it kind of requires, that deserves, kind of thing. But certainly, more and more people are watching this film and realizing actually it is great. Or not necessarily everyone needs to think that, but more and more people are, kind of getting things from this film. And I was certainly very, very moved, truly moved by this, and just I took so much from it, connected to it, and just loved it. It's such an entertaining film, and yes. Stunning film by Chaplin, Monsieur Verdoux. So yes, next up is the final, as many say, great film of Chaplin, and that is Limelight. Of course, here we are on this half of the set, and yes, a special film for me, a truly, truly special film. We will get to that, and just tell me your thoughts in the comments on this film, and yes, thanks for watching my review.